Morning, everyone. Welcome back to Biblio Fitness. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Made some beautiful gains. It was fun. Well, it's fun resting. But today I kind of wanted to continue to elaborate on what I was, what was spoken about in the previous episode, and that's the whole separation of the scholar from the philosopher. And I just finished that chapter of We Scholars, and gonna move on to our virtue. No, yeah, I'm in our virtues. The next chapter, our virtues. Because it's very interesting how he puts it, how he puts out his idea as to this interest in pursuit of knowledge as a good thing, which has been going on with, and then he calls like a lot of the banners being thrown out there in the for the plebs, as he says, is like the scientific method, objectivity, how in society people really champion the qualities of a man who's very cautious, a man who seeks knowledge not for any personal gains, for example, or that seeks knowledge for knowledge's sake, doesn't really make any plans. He puts off the facade of disinterest, and that seems to be the thing that you chase after. And how he talks about how scholars never really could do anything or make any claims is because they just specialize in one thing. For example, because they never want to look over, and like they never really want to see the big picture, right? Like they have these biases, and then they say that they somehow got to this using the scientific method, and then they go ahead and just rely on this one thing, right? They live and die by that theory or whatever. And he says that it's a lot to do with the herd morality, which is very interesting. Like how he says, like, no one wants to go to philosophy because it's very lordy, very knowable, because as he says at the end, is that philosophy is not just setting systems, conceptions, it's not just any categories like Immanuel Kant. It's creating philosophy. It's creating a new religion. It's creating new values for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, understand. It's really cool how he puts it out in a way that there is this overwhelming tide of democracy across all facets, right? Like he talks about how, I think it was Slavoj Žižek that said this, how socialism is from the bosom of Christianity and stuff like that. So, which is something I don't understand. I'm not gonna continue with Jordan Peterson. I'm gonna spare people on this episode with that guy, but it's just how using these science, like how having a disinterest is a good thing, because you are no longer making claims, right? You are no longer making these overarching claims. You are just conforming to the status quo, to the prevailing values. You're not going to ruffle any feathers. He says how people who, champion, prudency as being wise, to, be cautious, be very slow as being wise, as being a philosopher. He says that's, what is it? I forgot. A paralysis of the soul. Sorry. A paralysis of the will. I'm so sorry. A paralysis of the will. Indecision. Too much knowledge, and you can't make any decisions. Or you go to the point how it is now that you feel like you don't have a right to even make any such claims, right? That you just go on your own field. You're proud of your little hole in the wall. You're proud of your status and your station, and you care about you still care about the gratification of others, of course, but it all matters about who's gratifying, right? Who's being served, who's serving. He talks about that in our virtues as well, which is it's kind of a mindfuck, really, how he really attacks these values in such a way that makes it seem, makes a lot of sense, right? He's just calling the truth out all the time, which is everything is a will to power. There's no possible way that you can create a truth separate from your own experiences, from your own biases, from your own, from your own environment, from on a variety of levels, right? Like country and nation and heritage and stuff like that. So, um, and that's how it is with Christianity, and how he talks about even with Buddhism, how the renunciation of pleasure, the renunciation of sensations, the renunciation of worldly gains, is just a reflection of what is missing, and what they are in contempt of. He talks about this in the beginning of our virtues as well, is that these people who are morally weak attack those who are not so morally weak, and they use morality as a way to justify the condemnation, to justify their resentment, to place them as the epitome, to put everyone equal before God. We're all sinners before God. There is no distinctions, there are no hierarchies. They're trying to be antithetical to life and the world as much as possible. And me listening to the Nietzsche podcast by Essential Salts really does help in really honing in on these ideas, because he talks about that with how in Nietzsche and Birth of Tragedy, talks about how when people started diverting to the ideal and started being skeptic, it was a sign of a lack of virility, right? It was people no longer satisfied with the world, starting to grumble, which really does make a lot of sense. The more you believe in this, the more it's obvious that you're really trying to escape the world. You are angry with the world. You are angry with your lot in life, or whatever the case may be. So you run to these religions that provide you with this truth. This is the truth of the world. It's all about you. And it's amazing, because all these things really are. He really does like to attack Plato and Socrates. How they all come from that. How our knowledge and our instincts strive for good, and then Christianity just takes the good and puts it in God and stuff like that. So, and he talks about how to create your own philosophy, to be a free spirit, to be the opposite, right? To be morally disciplined, mentally tough, to be a man of action, to be strong, to be ruthless. You have to be the opposite of a meek, the obedient person that it is nowadays, right? Kids with ADHD, which I feel is just pent up testosterone, are given drugs to calm them the fuck down, when it's, in reality, it's just nature. But nature in itself is seen as an error. We're trying to be as sedated as possible, and the concepts of good and evil are related to how compliant we are within this environment. These are all very astute observations, and this guy really is on another level with this whole virtual, getting really into the heart of virtues, and really calling into question all these values that we do seem to consider good, right? Stoicism talks about that as well, to do for the good, to care about other people. They may not say that entirely, but it was, you know what I mean. So it's a lot to take in. it's a lot to take in. But it really all does make sense. Like, it registers at the end of the day. It really does logically. It rationalizes everything. It makes them all make sense. It gets through the absurdity and the fact that we do need all these fictions to get through life, but we consider them to be absolute truths. And we have to get everybody behind them. Everybody has to comply. Everybody has to believe what we believe in order to make that truth valid in themselves as well, right? That's the only way to work. It can't be openly subjective, which in reality is, right? It's just obvious, but nobody wants to believe it, because they need it. They need these lies, and and to create your own philosophy. I really like how he says it in the beginning of our virtues. Is like, once you realize that, and once you are able to separate yourself, which is a lot easier said than done, which is what I'm trying to do, is really ask the deep questions and stuff. And you know, it's tough. Like, how do you solve the questions that arise? And I'm not gonna say anything just yet. You know, I haven't answered. I've answered a few, but I'm still. It's a hard road to follow. You know, obviously Nietzsche makes this obvious from the very beginning. He talks about the dangers and the open waters and the rapid waters that you'll go through, asking these deep questions within yourself. You know, he just lays out the map, the roadwork. But I love how he says, like, once you separate yourself from this morality, you no longer have to be relying completely on it, right? Because to be moral is to restrict your vision, to narrow your vision, because now everything has to be has to be evidence to substantiate this truth claim that you believe in, the truth claim in the religion. But now that you can get away from that, and you don't tie yourself to such things, you could be shined by different suns, as he says, and hewn in different colors. You could be many things, whatever you want. You know, at the end of the day, you are going to choose values that are rational and are going to benefit you and whatever goals you have in mind. You are no longer having these moral scruples. So you could choose and do whatever you wish. You know, obviously that's a responsibility you have to take upon yourself, and it's not easy, but that's the option. That's the only other option, unless you want to, you know, just follow someone else, which is what he last talks about, is that this is really what it is, like agreeing to these moral values and these virtues and religion and stuff like that. You're basically obeying someone else. You are obeying somebody else's laws and someone else's ideal of what they want to deal with, you know what I'm saying, like, or of what the human they want to interact with. You know, and it really does matter on who you serve, you know, because it's a command and someone has to obey that command. But all that, you know, in democracy and all these different stuff, you know, they just blanket it as doing it for the people, doing it for everybody, doing it for the greater good and all that. But it's still an obedience, it's still a will to power. You're still subjecting yourself to the will of another individual. It's just a different blanket. It's just a different banner a different wool they have over your eyes, I guess. It's, I don't know. It just raises a lot of questions, you know, because you really are, you know, especially now with the introduction and the mass inclusion of technology and social media, to be, you know, the concept of good and evil really is in relations to how you behave to the crowd, how you are with the crowd, how you acclimate yourself with the crowd. That's how you consider good or bad. You know, values consistently change, but we always make it seem like they've always remained the same, you know. They constantly change, but we always want to make it seem like these are truths, and that these are truths that everyone needs to get behind. And in reality, they're just subjective, and they're just relying on your dumbass, you know. But people are always trying to make the claim that this is something we all could get behind. You know, even science makes that claim, you know, using the scientific method, that now they place themselves on the moral posturing, right? Because they really try to explain everything and put them into these specific categories, like it. And that's how Nietzsche talks about it. Like, you know, science may have withdrawn its allegiance from Christianity, but it still follows the same practice. It removes God as master, but they want to place themselves as masters. And it's, you know, that's really what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, creating a hierarchy where you are at the top. That just seems to be the case. Just people are really good at lying, and people really do like to believe. You know, obedience really is the trait that has survived and thrived the most throughout the millennia of our existence. So these are all just I'm almost done with Beyond Good and Evil, and I can't believe that this man wrote all this shit. Like, he's very different from other philosophers. He's very, he's unique because he really is saying how it is. Because every philosopher really tries to make these truth claims, but it's just a way to satisfy what they want to believe. They make the what they made, I don't even know, whatever. They have the evidence before the claim, or after the claim. I don't know. But point is that they make a claim, they have a bias, and everything is rationalized in their minds in order to make it valid. But at least with Nietzsche, he tries to supersede philosophy itself and the pursuit of truth in philosophy. How it really is predicated on a false claim from the very beginning, to think that you are going to find a truth that is completely separate from yourself. It's really amazing. Like, he really is going through the veil. He's going through another level, and he's calling it how it is, right? Because people are always going to want to make claims. People are always going to want to make their mark, as a way to distinguish themselves from others. That's just how it is. Even in this herd game, everyone wants to do something that makes them completely different from others, but just within the rules. So these really are values and biases that are really difficult to escape from, because they just are on a multitude of levels of our reality, that is very difficult to traverse, and it's very difficult to not to be blind to how you are continuing to conform to the status quo. And that's what I ask myself all the time with the decisions I make, and I really try to now analyze everything and my ideas and the concepts that I have, or the inclinations that I may have. Like, why do I have these inclinations? Why do I abide by these behaviors? Like, is it because I really want it to be, or what convictions am I holding in relations to the overwhelming faith? Am I really separate from the faith, or am I still? So it's a lot of questions to ask, and it's very difficult to answer, right? And that's why this order journey is a very slow journey. You're not going to make leaps and bounds very quickly, because there's just a lot of questions to ask, and a lot of mountains and hills to traverse and stuff. So I really do appreciate the analogies in Beyond Good and Evil, or even in Nietzsche's work. I appreciate him in general. So he's been, and I feel like, you really, at the end of the day, what I feel like I really do want to most get is bashing into my head the ultimate responsibility, and not running away from it, right? Is really taking in every day, being like, how can I make this day as amazing as possible? To have ultimate responsibility, to be the one that, if you make it or break it, it's all on you. And the only way you could do that really is separate yourself from the philosophy, because, like how Nietzsche has said, that a lot of people, not the philosophy, but the morality and the religions, is a lot of people choose these things because they want to numb the pain. They want to escape from reality. They want to defer responsibility onto a deity, so they can wash their hands of the filth, of the sins, or whatever dumb shit that they did. And I don't want to be that person. I don't want to somehow deflect blame on my environment, or my upbringing, or anything like that. Like, to be affirming of life and to love life so much that you would like for it to be repeated, is to also begin to appreciate those terrible, traumatic times. That if it wasn't for those times, you wouldn't be who you are today. And changing that mentality on that level is very crucial, and it's difficult, but it is crucial, right? To understand that even the moralities and the religions that I taunt and mock are an integral part of me, no matter how much I try to deny it, because it is just so immersed in the culture of our lives, of our society, whether we want to admit it or not, or whether we have God in the claim or not, it still follows that same wave of, I gotta appreciate this man. He really, I just don't know how he did it. I mean, it makes sense, at the end of the day. The guy's an intelligent man. Became a professor at 24, I believe. There are just different levels of genius. There's nothing wrong with making that fact, calling that fact for what it is. So I hope you all have an amazing day. That's all for today. I'm going to try to continue reading Art Virtues. If you haven't read it, I really suggest you do. I'm probably going to read like 2 or 3 more of Nietzsche just to really get a good hone on philosophy. I'm getting really good at it. I'm not getting so stuck anymore. But it's great. That's probably what I'm going to do, because I'm glad that he's going through the bullshit. I'm sick and tired of the bullshit. Sick and tired of lies and all this stuff. Like, obviously pursuing truth is going to be dangerous, because you could become pessimistic and want to shoot yourself in the face, because you can easily give up, or you can see the true reality of it all behind the veil and realize that nothing has really changed, and the people in power and the people who are ruthless and evil, according to our evaluations, the plebeian evaluations, they're the ones that end up winning anyway. So how beneficial has morality really been besides a coping mechanism? That's a question that needs to be asked. How good has these morals done except help you sleep at night? Because nothing's changed. The aristocracy has remained there. The systems of power have remained there. While the aristocracy, or the patricians and the families within that patrician class may change because of revolutions and military coups and the like, of course, the practices remain the same. They follow. It's just a natural way of life. We haven't really made a dent in that aspect. So, concentrating on those sort of moralities, what does it do except make us compliant? That's the questions that you really have to ask. I don't know. Not easy to answer. So, love y'all. I hope you all make some amazing gains. That'll be all for today. I'm probably going to elaborate on that very last aspect for our next episode, because that seems like a lot of fun. But I'm already on 20-something minutes. I don't want to make it too long. So, be safe. Make some gains. I hope you are all fucking logging your numbers, please. Don't be lazy. Log your numbers. You're going to make amazing gains doing it. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.